I'm not a scientist, I'm a policymaker. And that means that when I was working for Margaret Thatcher, and when I'm advising governments and corporations, as I do from time to time today, those with whom I am dealing will be experts in their subject, and I, as a policymaker, and therefore inevitably to a large extent a generalist, will not. So they have the advantage of the policymaker. And the scientific community has, if you will forgive me, taken ruthless advantage of that advantage and has misled the political community. And so what I did was I just took one item from the IPCC's documents and I examined that one item and tried to work out what was being hidden and to work out why they were trying to hide it. But while I'm on the subject of the IPCC, my policy for the future of that body is that it should be abolished. So now let's have some fun with just one graph from the IPCC's document. This is the science bit of the presentation. And so, Myron, if you're watching, I hope this pleases you. For the rest, normal political fun will be resumed as soon as possible. Here then is the hockey stick graph that appears in the 2007 IPCC report. Thanks to Steve McIntyre and Ross Gittrick, both of whom graced us with superb presentations here this week, the hockey stick of the 2001 report has been utterly and thoroughly discredited. And I think we need to be particularly grateful both to Steve for doing the initial research and also to Ross for joining in the fun and getting those distinguished papers into literature in the teeth of fierce opposition from the so-called peer review process, which is now a way of filtering out anything that disagrees with the socialist orthodoxy that is science today. So can we give them a really thumbs? Now this particular hockey stick graph shows underneath it that sort of grey area, appropriately foggy looking, that is the Hadley Centre's temperature record, global mean surface temperature, for the past 150 years. And you will see that they have imposed upon that stochastic record 4 arbitrarily chosen trend lines, starting at places that suited them. The plain intention of this graph, which is explicitly stated in the 3 places in the document where it is used large and in full colour, is to try to show that the rate of global warming is itself accelerating, with the stated implication that we are to blame. Now, when I saw this graph, I realised at once that it was bogus. Anyone who has taken Statistics 101 knows that you may not put multiple trend lines on the same stochastic data set with arbitrarily chosen start points and then draw any conclusions whatsoever as to the trend or acceleration or deceleration in trend of the data by reference to the relationships between the slopes of the different trend lines. That is an old and entirely impermissible statistical fraud. So when I saw it, I thought we should confront IPCAC with it. So I went to Copenhagen and was appalled to find the whole place covered in green socialist banners everywhere, which rather implausibly said, "Brad Pitt saves the planet." And there I found Dr. Rajendra Pachauri, who is the chairman of the IPCC. Did I hear somebody hissing there? Yes, I think I did. Can't you hiss louder than that? Now, of course, we mustn't be unfair to dear Dr. Pachauri, because he's not a climate scientist, he's a railroad engineer. He's the Casey Jones of the IPCC. And of course, he was giving in his lecture at the University of Copenhagen, among other things, this graph. And he was saying, this is illustrating that the problem is getting worse. So I knew he would use this graph. So I took him a 10-page letter explaining in words of one syllable why this graph is wrong. It's very difficult when you're explaining climatology to a railroad engineer, but anyway, I did my work. And he said, well, that is a very deep point that you are making. I said, no, it's a very elementary point that I'm making. The graph is bogus, it is fraudulent, and I'm going to give you 2 days to withdraw that graph and make sure that a correction is published on the IPCC's website, or I'm going to report you for criminal fraud to the public authorities. And he said, fraud is a very strong word. And I said, Dr. Pachori, fraud is a very serious crime. I am going to report you for it unless I see some evidence of good faith from you in getting this graph corrected. And he was hustled out of the room, and the meeting was brought rather hastily to an end, to the cheers of the audience, many of whom were friends of mine who had happened to come along. And so a week later, I always give them longer than I say I will, because you've got to be kind. A week later, I wrote to the Charity Commission in the United Kingdom because Rajendra Pachori is at the moment, the sole trustee of a charity called TERI Europe, the Tatar Industry and Research Institute. And that charity has filed accounts for the last 4 years, you can see them ringed, with very low incomes. Indeed, below £10,000 in each of the years, £26,000 in total. And I happen to be trawling in a nerdish sort of way through the government's websites in the UK, and here is the Department of Food and Rural Affairs and City Walks, and what it shows is a grant of more than £30,000 in just one of the 4 years concerned to TERI Europe. So I pointed out to the Charity Commission that these are the figures that appeared on its own website, and that this is what appeared on the government's website. And I said, should I be reporting this to the police as criminal false accounting? Within 2 days, the Charity Commission had got in touch. They said, we have checked with the charity. It has accepted that it filed false accounts. It will be providing true accounts, and we will then be deciding whether or not and whom we will prosecute for the false accounting that has plainly arisen. So when Steve McIntyre says we shouldn't use words like fraud, yes, we should when fraud is plain and evident, and I don't think that anyone should be immune from prosecution for fraud just because they have diplomatic immunity, because they are, as a railroad engineer, the head of the UN's climate panel.